Look, they have to make the call, as I tell Nielsen all the time. Ultimately, you're responsible for the currency. You have to make a call. But at the end of the day, if you make a call that doesn't make sense to us or we can't validate, we're going to continue to press hard. And then because of the way this played out, it's really shaken our confidence again in terms of their ability to continue to modernize the currency. And we're looking 3, 5, 7, 10 years out where the media landscape could be even more fragmented.
The TV upfronts made one thing very clear. It's not enough for addressable TV to run targeted buys. It has to prove outcomes. That's why the Go Addressable certification program is back with a 2-class addressable master track, giving agencies and brands the skills they need to buy, plan, and execute addressable campaigns with confidence. Now available on Substack, Evan Shapiro, Media Universe cartographer and founder of eShop TV, and guest speakers unpack actionable insights into buying media in the addressable ecosystem and measurement and attribution and optimization. Learn addressable, become a master, enroll today at goaddressable.substack.com. This week on Next in Media, I chatted with Paul Ballew, Chief Data and Analytics Officer at the National Football League. Paul and I talked about the NFL's concern with recent changes in the works from Nielsen and whether the third-party metrics giant is moving fast enough on big data. Paul also discussed the potential for alternative currencies and whether TV sports needs to rethink how it packages and sells TV viewerships to advertisers. Let's get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Next in Media. I'm Mike Shields. My guest this week is Paul Ballew. He's the Chief Data and Analytics Officer for the National Football League. Hey, Paul. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Mike. Nice to see you.
Lots of things to talk to you about. We're a couple weeks out from the season, and you guys have made some interesting news this week. We're in the measurement realm, so you're the guy to talk to. I wonder if maybe we could start like a little bit big picture and then get into what's going on.
Sure. How
would you grade it's been a fascinating couple of years when it comes to TV measurement and the evolution of streaming. How would you grade the way that is going? It's not. I have sympathy for all parties. It's not easy. It's a huge transition. Does not seem like an easy task, but there seems to be like mixed reviews, let's say, on how like Nielsen's push into big data has gone and the streaming measurement race. What's your overall take on things?
Every time we want to help them graduate to the next grade, they then do something that forces us to hold them back another year, to use your metaphor. It's an interesting year for us with them. We've spent an incredible amount of time the last couple of years investing with Nielsen time and energy and helping to bring our expertise to bear. And Nielsen's made legitimately some strides in some areas. Out of home, which was something that was lingering for a long time, which had a material impact last year. The initial testing in the phase of co-viewing is a step forward as well. We felt directionally positive about the movement of big data plus panel because for the first time they were bringing in transactional data to augment the panel and correcting the deficiencies of the panel. But then at the same time, all of that's playing out, they've done a series of things that are problematic for us. The glacial movement of still not solving first-party data in terms of the full integration. Co-viewing is only partial. And then this rush, and it's the only way to describe it, this rush to implement a series of fixes where we don't have sufficient impact data. They just restated impact data yesterday with all of us. They continue to have lack of clarity around some of the methodological changes that we're trying to get our arms around. And when we look at all of this, it becomes muddled. And then you put their ongoing quality assurance issues on top of that. And it becomes a really interesting, hard task to grade them. And of course, for us, that's very frustrating because we want more accuracy in the measurement. It's so important of what we do on a day-to-day basis.
There's a bunch of things in there that you said that I want to break down with you, but overall, what is the challenge that is it technological or philosophy or business practices that seems to hold them down or hold this conversation back?
It's a great question, Mike. It's a combination of things. Partially we have to have some empathy for Nielsen. They're trying to modernize an old way of measurement, namely when you're survey-based or panel-based, and then you're trying to move into the digital realm. It's hard. And companies that have done this, especially when you're the currency affecting billions of dollars, making that pivot is difficult. So on one end, we have to be very empathetic, and we've been trying to help Nielsen deal with those issues, both politically and operationally and as alike. Having said that, the second issue that Nielsen faces is just cultural. And we've tried to help them. Others have tried to help them as well. It's just a hard organization to move and a hard organization to fully embrace change. And then the third issue is Nielsen is getting whipsawed, and they get whipsawed and they overreact at times and they underreact at times. And you put all of that together of technical, operational, cultural, and it makes it very, very difficult for an organization that has to change. I think they would agree they have to change. And if they don't, sooner or later, there will be alternatives, because the world we live in from a digital standpoint is going to find ways around this if Nielsen cannot modernize their measurement and we continue to have gaps and errors that we see.
Well, what about that? I was actually going to hold that question, but you bring it up. A couple of years ago, we talked about there was all this excitement, hype, perhaps around the currency war as an alternative currency. From the outside, it seems like it was a lot of noise. There was a lot of, this company is partnering with a Nielsen alternative to try something, and then, they just re-upped with Nielsen. It seemed like it didn't have a lot of change. Is that, for you guys, has that had a big impact? And is there still a possibility that everybody could switch?
I think there's a possibility that you will see switching in some parts of the currency. You can end up with two currencies. You can end up with that fragmentation occurring because streaming has a higher probability of finding an alternative than the traditional linear side of the equation. And the experimentation is still underway. Experimentation by networks, experimentation by ourselves. There's dialogue that continues to move forward. We're anticipating that dialogue because this year has really raised issues in our minds about whether or not we can help Nielsen get to that next level. We'll see how it plays out, but somewhere along the line, something has to give. Very few organizations can have this amount of tension and at times outright hostility between themselves and their customers and not experience a change. I've never seen an industry or a category where the level of frustration, the ongoing challenges on a day-to-day basis are so intense, and yet the incumbent doesn't have to make material changes or an alternative develop. In my years of doing this, I've never seen that happen. Now, it's tough because it's a currency and it's interwoven to so much in terms of workflows, but sooner or later, something's got to give.
So that is interesting, because it seems like there is a lot of real public hostility. And I always wonder, okay, is this just like negotiating in public, posturing? Because so many companies continue to work. And for example, NBCU will have this, we're going to work with someone else. Oh, no, we just re-upped. Is the hostility real, I guess? Is it frustration? I know you're saying that they have not gone as fast as they, is that, how much of that is like noise versus something we should really pay attention to?
The frustration is real. The frustration is real with their network customers, real with us, real with other sports leagues, other entities. And at times we all shift into this empathetic mode of saying, we've got to give Nielsen a little bit of air and got to give them a little bit of credit for the things they've done. But then when we do that, we look at what transpired over the last 6 months and we kind of go, what organization that's truly customer centric would go and implement a bunch of changes that their customers disagree with and don't fully understand 6 months after upfronts are done? So right in the mid part of the calendar of the buying season for media. And you just look back on that and you see Nielsen doing it because they think MRC is pressuring them or some other factor, which really isn't the case. And so it's a very conflicted situation for ourselves and others with Nielsen, because we sincerely want to help them because it's in everybody's best interest. But in the same regard, because of these ongoing lingering issues, Mike, we find ourselves accelerating the path of what are our other options.
Okay, let's take a quick break. I'm here with Charlie Ibarra. He's the co-founder and head of content at CreatorTV. So Charlie, what is Creator Ad Spot and why is it an important evolution of the traditional television commercial?
Creator Ad Spot is a creator-led approach to television advertising. Traditionally, when creators appear in TV commercials, they're often simply cast as a talent. With Creator Ad Spot, they become creative partners, helping develop, produce, and star in the work. That allows brands to combine the reach and impact of streaming television with the authenticity and deep audience resonance creators bring.
So what does Creator Ad Spot unlock for brands, and what makes CreatorTV uniquely positioned to deliver it?
For brands, it unlocks advertising that feels more culturally relevant, relatable, and native to how audiences consume content today. Each campaign can also extend beyond CTV through a companion social post from the creator. CreatorTV brings together deep creator relationships, television production expertise, and Sabio's advanced CTV audience targeting technology, allowing us to pair the right creator and message with the right audience.
Terrific. Thanks, Charlie. And it's interesting from your guys' perspective. This I don't know if this analogy works, but usually you complain about the refs if your team lost. Like the NFL is doing well, that you have great numbers theoretically, and you're still worried about some of these changes. That must say a lot. Like what is coming up now that help people understand like what these recent changes are about and why that concerns you.
Well, the first reason for us to be so concerned and we spend so much time on this isn't just the top line numbers. It's actually because this data, especially the granular cuts of it, are essential for us to run our operations. We want to optimize viewership. We want to get the right games in the right window. We want to understand underlying patterns and trends. So this matters to us from an operational standpoint, and to the commissioner's credit and to the league's culture. We are constantly focused around what's around the corner. And as the media landscape continues to fragment, accuracy becomes even more important in this. Having said that, with regards to the changes that are moving forward, the most pressing one for us is this integrated weighting concept, which is how they're weighting between panel-only homes and big data homes without opt-in. And what comes out of it is a couple things. First of all, it shows the fact that Nielsen does not have the ability to pull in set-top data or transactional data to augment panels for the entire household universe out there. The whole movement to big data plus panel projected the image that it was this seismic shift.
So that's where I'm like, oh, didn't they figured this out, right? Then can't they just pull the data together and make that work? That's not happening.
No, the answer is not. They're not there, and they believe that their weighting schema that they had a while back is incorrect, and the weighting schema that they were operationalizing against something that was inaccurate and was causing all the noise between big data plus panel versus panel. So now they're going to a different weighting schema across those households. And the problem is we haven't looked at alternatives. We haven't had enough impact data. The limited impact data we can see has a very negative impact on sports, but not so much in other categories. And how does that make sense? And how can we reconcile it? And can our questions get answered? And can we pull all these pieces together in terms of really making sense of it? And we just haven't had sufficient time. We haven't been able to peel it back. And from Nielsen's perspective, they feel that they have to make these changes because of some pressures. But yet when we all get together, which we have with Nielsen, with all the networks and ourselves at one time, we're all saying, please don't move quickly. MRC has actually asked them not to move quickly either and make sure that they do their homework. But they feel this sense to rush the changes. At the same time, the other things we want move glacially.
Right,
so it's a very conflicted situation.
Even your dog is upset at this point.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Sorry. No, my dog might make an appearance any second here. It does seem like, again, from the outside, tell me if this sounds right to you, that whoever screams at them last gets maybe a voice. Like you mentioned, they're getting whipsawed. Like sometimes, for example, they restated the gauge a few months back, and it seemed like that was going to hurt certain parts of the industry, so they yelled, and then Nielsen made another change. I don't know if I'm characterizing right, but is that part of the problem, that they respond to who's loudest?
I don't know if it's a systemic problem, but it happens sometimes with them because, again, in fairness to Nielsen, they're getting lots of love from lots of different sources. Our approach to Nielsen has been not to go to them and say, if you don't give us a higher number, we object. Our approach to them has been, we've been in the tent with them for almost 2 years. We've invested a considerable amount of time and effort trying to help them. And the journey for us is, don't worry about the whipsawing, because sometimes you respond to it, sometimes you don't anyway if you're Nielsen. Sometimes they tune everything out. Let's just work through this systematically so we can improve quality, so we can validate your methodological changes, so we can help you modernize, so we can help you be transparent, because that's the other criticism they've had. And on many of those things, they've worked with us. And then what they've done here in the last 6 months, we kind of shake our head like, everything we've raised and worked with you for 6 months, you've told us doesn't matter. We're just going to go do this anyway.
And you seemed like you were in concert during these conversations, and then they acted differently.
And they have to make the call, as I tell Nielsen all the time. Ultimately, you're responsible for the currency. You have to make a call. But at the end of the day, if you make a call that doesn't make sense to us or we can't validate, we're going to continue to press hard. And then because of the way this played out, it's really shaken our confidence again in terms of their ability to continue to modernize the currency. And Mike, as I just mentioned, we're looking 3, 5, 7, 10 years out where the media landscape could be even more fragmented.
Right. Things are not going to stay the way they are,
Exactly.
pretty clearly.
And therefore, measurement becomes even more important for us going forward. And we're going to be out in front of it one way or another. Now, does that result in multiple currencies? Does that result in an alternative currency? Does that result in fragmented measurement? Because to some degree, if we're not honest with ourselves, we get lazy on measurement a bit on media because this currency has given us, whether we like the currency or not, it's one currency, and therefore we can go transact on it.
Yeah, even if you all hate this thing, it's one thing. Like I could see that being, easy to stick with in certain ways. Let me try and break this down without. Maybe we're getting too in the weeds. I don't know. Let's see. But from your view, there are some that are like why does Nielsen have panels at all? I don't think you're saying that there shouldn't be panels. So correct me if I'm wrong there, but there should be a balance between panels and big data. And is it just, what's changing about the weighting and how should it look in your view?
Yeah, if you're Nielsen and you're any currency right now, you can't move away from panels because you don't have an alternative data source that's sufficiently robust and sufficiently granular, even with first-party data. But what you have to do is you have to make the decision and be visible around how you're using multiple data sources to harmonize and ultimately come up with the best measurement process possible. And you have to continuously innovate with regards to these data sources. And one of the reasons we've been pressing Nielsen so hard on first-party data. First-party data does not allow you to get to a viewership number because it loses multipliers and other factors. But what it is it's a more accurate data set in terms of devices watching versus a panel.
And let me just make sure most people I think listening understand what you mean, but first party data can mean different things. You mean if the game is on Amazon, they know exactly how many people logged in.
That's right.
That's precise data, or Netflix or another streamer versus a panel with projections.
Exactly. And samples of audiences. And Nielsen is inch forward with integration of first party, especially with the Amazons of the world and so on, but they still lack that. And then on top of that, you have to think about what's next for them. What else are they going to do? And oh, by the way, in parallel with this, you may have to make investments in panel even more aggressively in what you're doing. This is a hard thing that you're solving for, but the world requires you to do that. And other organizations that are in the measurement business have moved in different directions in terms of, yes, I may still use surveys or panels or so on, but I'm looking increasingly at transactional data. We live in a transactional data world. One of my roles at the NFL is I'm responsible for all data and analytics, which includes fan data and analytics. We have data on 145 million individuals in the US. Transactional data that we're using to better serve them, to better communicate to them, or understand them. That didn't happen overnight. It took a heavy lift and a heavy investment to do so. So if you're Nielsen from a media measurement standpoint, one of the questions we ask them all the time is, what's next? What are you doing next? And it's just really hard for them.
When you say the transactional data, just to be clear, you're talking about a panel. I think is important because you need to have, you can have raw viewership data, but you need to have demographic information and representation, all that stuff. But how would transactional data make that a little bit better? How can it be richer?
Yeah, it's the interesting balancing act of transactional data helps you really measure better the absolute counts and the viewership numbers and subsets associated with that. The problem with transactional data is it doesn't allow you to determine things like co-viewing accurately. It's a deficiency, which is why alternatives Nielsen have struggled. And it doesn't allow you always to get down to those cuts around demographics and other things that are important, not only for the ad buying business, but it's important for us too. We spend a lot of time looking at that data. That's why the homologation arguments that I've had with Nielsen on this is, I'm not saying get rid of panel. What I'm saying is that the world we live in allows you to augment this. And if you look at businesses 40 years ago, businesses lived and died on market research surveys, lived and died because we couldn't get real data. That was the best thing you had, yeah. And then over the last 40 years, we've been able to get hard transactional data on customers. And guess what? We haven't gotten rid of our market research functions. Market research functions evolve, and you bring them all together to get a more integrated and precise view. And it's really that mindset that is so critically important for people to have.
Do you think It sounds like you're almost, I don't want to put words in your mouth. You're hinting that not everybody at Nielsen has that mindset and they need to shake that up a little bit, or to just bring new people on. Like what's the holdup there?
I spent quite a bit of time with their CEO and others at Nielsen, and I, again, very empathetic for what they're trying to do, that there's a cultural shift that goes along with it.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you're the currency because you have to change the tire while the vehicle's moving.
Right. You can't stop the media world for a couple of years. And
It is what it is. But yes, I think that Nielsen, and I've given them this feedback directly, that ongoing evolution in their thought process and embracing that, and a little bit of paranoia in terms of there's existential risk, would be helpful to any organization that's been around that long and has been that successful.
Yeah. And that's just that. I imagine that's hard to infuse in a company that was a quote unquote monopoly or pseudo one for so long, to be like that fear of, someone's going to whack you. That drives a lot of businesses.
Yeah. And it's there. And it's why most businesses never make it past their 50th or 60th or 80th or 100th birthday, is that eventually the world finds a better mousetrap.
The innovator's dilemma. Right.
The innovator's dilemma. And it happens in every single category.
Nielsen just purchased Double Verify for a couple $2 billion. I wonder, that was a little bit of a head scratcher for me as a TV NFL person. Do you care about that? Does that mean anything to you? What do you make of that?
Doesn't directly affect us. I thought your article that you did on that was fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Not just playing to the choir here, but
that's okay if you are. Yeah.
It's an interesting question. And I think if you're Nielsen, you're trying to figure out how different piece parts in this overall ad verification optimization ecosystem play. And does it have some synergies potentially? I'm not exactly sure how they're putting all those piece parts together. It's an interesting company, but then you're leaving it as a standalone entity as well. So I'm really unclear at this point in time, and I haven't talked to them about it, Mike.
I want to come back to something you brought up earlier. You've been outspoken about their recent plan change, and it seems like it's going to penalize sports, which, from that seems to be the star of television right now. So you would think that would be not bulletproof, but less affected or by change. What worries you about sports specifically? Why do you think that might happen?
Yeah, just from the limited impact data we've seen some negative impacts on some of the changes on sports, and then co-viewing's a positive, and so on. So for us, we're worried about it. Yes, because it could impact the top line number, but we're worried about it because if we can't make sense of it and we're not aligned to the methodology, and yet we're relying on this data for operational purposes, we're going to have to spend time pulling it apart. And that just adds another task to our list. Our preference, which we were very clear on with Nielsen, is give us time to digest this. Give us time to work with you. Give us time to be ready for next year's upfront.
Right, not in the middle of the season, right?
Or not in the middle of 5-6 months after upfronts. It just doesn't make sense. And they heard that over and over again. And unfortunately, it wasn't something they wanted to do. So now we're scrambling a bit to try to make sense and isolate it and pull it all apart. And look, we're good at what we do and we'll make sense of it, but it's frustrating for us. And then all the while, the things that we really care about was accelerate the journey on co-viewing. Very important. Accelerate first party. Very important for not only us, but the world as a whole. Figure out what you're going to do to truly have big data plus panel instead of partial big data plus panel, which is what they have today.
I was going to say, what is on, besides this particular issue, what is on your wish list, whether it's from Nielsen or TV's streaming measurement over the next couple of years? Like what are you missing? What do you want to see? And what are you kind of looking around the corner for?
I think it's very important, and Nielsen, that co-viewing gets accelerated because that matters a lot to us. And we have a lot of evidence that says the lack of accurate co-viewing is material for us at big tentpole events, not just the Super Bowl.
Sorry to interrupt you. What's so hard about that? It sounds like it should be, let's figure out the average of people in the couch and done. But I'm sure it's not that simple.
Now you got to get the devices, and you got to solve out of home. And for us, that matters a lot in big tentpole events, Super Bowl, for instance.
For sure.
As Roger likes to say, who believes that the Super Bowl co-viewing number is 2.4? A multiplier. I mean,
if you live in the United States, that seems a little low.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense to anybody whatsoever. So that's important for us. I would say the second piece for Nielsen and for anybody else is, how are we going to make this journey to truly using either streaming data, set-top data, or all of the above in a sufficient way where we're going to have more accuracy to augment the panel and validate the panel instead of accepting the panel as the Bible, sorting that out. Then I would also say on Nielsen's side, a topic we don't spend a lot of time on, but we need to continue to focus on is quality. The ongoing restatements, the ongoing changes, the ongoing errors and omissions. If you're the currency, you can't be in a perpetual cycle of, whoops, I'm wrong, I got to restate. I mean, think about the Super Bowl results, restate. We got to
think about other business where you'd be, I'm just kidding, you paid too much for something that we, like that. I'm trying to think of an equivalent. It wouldn't fly.
No, and for us, Alex got to the point, our PR side, of we just didn't even go out and re-release Super Bowl numbers or draft numbers or so on, because it just got to the point of silliness. And so if you're going to be the currency and you are the golden version of the truth, you have to get the blocking and tackling right. And that's one of the things for any secondary currency developing as well. They're going to have to be able to have the assurance, get through the validation processes, have the time series that we all feel comfortable with, because people are transacting billions of dollars on them.
This might sound crazy, but I was thinking about in the digital world, people grumble about the walled gardens, but it's been a pretty good business for Facebook and Google to kind of just do their own thing. And I wonder, could television ever say, listen, we play by these like third-party rules for so long, and I don't know if it's helping us, and we could go our own way and we could all measure this stuff on our own. Is that radical? Do people think that way? Is that crazy equivalent?
We think that way sometimes. We know some of our partners think that way as well. Why does the currency have to be viewership? Because currency at the end of the day is a relative comparison. Where you're putting yes, you want to know absolute counts, but could you envision a universe 5 years from now, 10 years from now, where a currency to transact on is number of subs that are watching, number of device IDs? Why not? Why do we think that's not the case, especially as the media landscape gets more and more fragmented and we're consuming content vis-a-vis devices versus traditional channels? And I personally and my team spends time thinking about that, because what's to say you couldn't transact on that? It's an interesting question.
People used to not go for it on a fourth down, and now they do.
Which like everybody does, right?
Right?
Because the probabilities are there, and there's so many industries. My background in automotive, and I was the lead partner at J.D. Power for a long time. The industry spent so much time transacting on quality assurance and customer satisfaction measures and so on, and then we woke up one day and said, why can't we transact and provide insights that are more actionable within the plants through a completely different measurement system? Was it a foreign concept for the first 4 or 5 years? Yes, but something's got to give in this equation, and ultimately water eventually finds its way around a rock.
Sure.
It's probably the best way I can describe it.
Well, fascinating stuff. Thanks for taking so much time out here before your big season starts. Let's do this again, Bob. Great conversation.
Look forward to it, Mike. Thanks for your time.
Thanks again to my guests this week, Paul Ballew of the NFL, and my partners at Sabio and Go Addressable. If you like this week's episode, please take a moment to rate and leave a review. We have lots more to bring you, so please hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time for more on What's Next in Media. Thanks for listening.